Hello again, economics students. So we are now going to extend our thinking on the relationship between supply and demand. And in order for them to be a truly useful tool in the real world, we have to understand this concept of elasticity. So in this video, what we're going to look at is the meaning of elasticity, and we'll get to the significance and some of the factors in a later video. Now, up until this point, we've been thinking about the demand and supply curve, which is the relationship between price and quantity. And what we've been assuming is that a change in price will lead to an equal change, in this case it's demand, so decrease in quantity demanded. And that's the same for supply. Now, what that technically is called is unit elasticity. So a percentage change in price will lead to a equal percentage change in quantity demanded or quantity supplied. However, we know that's not the case because human beings are not, they don't react that way. There are factors that will change that. So really, elasticity is asking the question, when there's a change in price, by how much does quantity demanded and quantity supplied change? All right, let's get into it. So there's three ways to think about elasticity. I think the key word here is responsiveness. That's really what elasticity is measuring. And if we use a little analogy here of the elastic band, an elastic band, when you put force on the elastic band with your hands, it has give, it's responsive. If you use some other material, like plastic, it's not responsive, right? It's not going to move. What we're thinking about is how responsive is quantity demanded and quantity supplied to a change in price. Moving on to thinking about it graphically, we can actually look at the curve. Now, the shape of the curve is going to change when we bring elasticity into the picture. We're going to have steep and flat curves. And we're going to learn that the steep curve is always going to be inelastic and a flat curve is always going to be elastic. And finally, for the maths people out there, we can actually calculate this thing called the price elasticity of demand or supply, which is the PES and the PED. And we do that by dividing the percentage change in quantity demanded by the percentage change in price. So three ways to think about it: the word responsiveness, the curve, and using some maths. Okay, so here's an inelastic demand curve. Note straight away that it's steep. I should get my pen a bit thinner. It's steep, right? And a little hint here is that if we capitalize I in elastic like I have here, I is steep. So an inelastic curve is steep. And that can be the same for a supply curve as well. We have a steep supply curve, which I could draw on here. Okay. Secondly, we can look at the X and Y axis and we can see that it's not responsive, by seeing that there is about a 30% increase in price. I just made these numbers up, and quantity demanded has not responded by as much. It's only decreased by 10%, not responsive. Finally, using that little formula of PED, we can have 10% over 30%, which is 1 over 3, which is effectively 0.33, our PED. And what that means is for every 1% change in price, there is a 0.33% change in quantity demanded, decrease. And whenever PED or PES is less than 1, we call that inelastic. If it's equal to 1, then it's unit elasticity, like we said, like we've been thinking about prior to this. All right, let's look at an elastic demand. Now, straight away, you can see that it's flat, right? It's a different shape to the normal demand curve. And we could also have a elastic supply curve, which is also flat. Okay, so it's responsive to a change in price. Quantity demanded or quantity supplied is responsive to a change in price. Secondly, we can just look at the X and Y axis, and here on the Y axis there's been a 10% change in price and a larger, call it 30% change or decrease in quantity demanded. Okay, so we can see that. Finally, if we use the PED formula, in this instance it's 30% over 10%, which we can simplify to 3 over 1, which means the PED is equal to, 3. Which means for every 1% change in price up here, there will be a larger 3% change in quantity demanded, which means it's responsive, it's elastic. All right, so hopefully from this video you understand what elasticity is and the two types of elasticity: inelastic and elastic. And of course, we've been assuming that everything is unit elastic. up until this point, which is just your standard demand and supply curve. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. Bye for now.